So you've been on Zillow, you see something you like, maybe you scroll through and you've even looked at their loan application or their loan calculator and you think, I could afford that? So instead of guessing, let's take a look at some figures. There's the age-old rule that suggests that if you just take your annual salary and you multiply it by 3, that's how much house you could afford. So you make $80,000 a year, multiply it by 3, that's $240,000. Perfect, right? Well, I don't know about you, but for me, I'd like something that's a little more concrete and has some actual numbers behind it. So let's do that. Now, your realtor and your loan officer, the person who gets your mortgage for you, could be a great resource. However, they also get paid on commission depending on the size of the home you get. So typically a realtor makes a certain percentage off your home. So it's not that they would do this, but it's in their best interest that you buy the biggest home that you can possibly qualify for. Same thing with a loan officer that works at a mortgage company. It's in their best interest to sell you the largest mortgage on the largest home that you could possibly qualify for. However, that might not be what's best for you. To qualify for a mortgage, the biggest thing that the loan officer is trying to ascertain by having you fill out that universal loan application is your debt to income ratio, also known as your DTI. And in looking at this, there's two important figures to consider because it's not just one number. There is both the front end ratio, that is 28%, and the back end ratio, which is 36%. So what's the difference? Front end ratio is just taking into account what this new potential loan would burden you with. Meaning, if you are now taking a mortgage, that mortgage might represent 25, 26, 28% of your debt. The front end ratio of 28% includes the mortgage as well as the taxes and insurance. So if a couple goes and applies for a home loan together and they have $10,000 of gross income and the total mortgage obligation, that is the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance combined, is $2,500, well, $2,500 out of $10,000, their front end DTI is 25%. So far, so good. Now, when it comes to the back end ratio, and this is where sometimes this can hurt borrowers for how much they would qualify to borrow. Not that they have to borrow the total amount that they could. However, any debt that is reported in your credit report would be added into your total, your back end ratio of 36%. So you already have that existing $2,500 for a mortgage. That is now your front end ratio is 25%. However, things that are on your credit report, such as student loan, credit card, personal loan, car loan, all of those in there are used on a monthly basis and added. So if the family in this scenario had $2,500, they're at 25% front end. However, if they've got a student loan, a car loan, some credit card debt, and that total number is $1,000 a month, well, they're still okay, but they're getting close to the edge because now that 1,000 plus their mortgage of $2,500 brings them to $3,500. Their back end ratio is now $3,500 or 35%. Having a large amount of existing debt that shows up on your credit report, like credit card debt, student loan, or car loan, can really make it tougher to qualify for a mortgage. That same family that was looking for the mortgage and their upfront ratio was 25%, well, if they've got $2,000 in credit card monthly payments, car loans, and student loans, together now that's going to put their ratio, the back end ratio, at 45%, and there's a good chance that they won't qualify for that. Now, there are a lot of mortgage companies that will let you go over, and it has been lately that they have been going up over that 36%, but that's not a guarantee, and that largely is based on your credit history and your credit score. Last thing to consider, just because you qualify to borrow a certain amount doesn't mean that you have to. And this is the difference between qualifying for and what you can afford. When my wife and I purchased a house, the amount that we qualified for was much, much more than the home that we actually felt we needed or were comfortable with borrowing that amount. So please don't confuse the two. Just because you make a lot of money and you qualify to borrow $800,000 or $1 million or $1.3 million, but if there's a reasonable home that you like and maybe instead you're going to borrow $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, that's something to consider. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please consider subscribing and enjoy your time on Zillow.